Welcome back on the Deep Tech stage here at Deep Tech Atelier, and we are experimenting with different formats, and right now we're moving on to panel discussions. They will be fun, there will be two, and we're starting with the first one, which will revolve around Riga as the hotspot in the making. So why Riga? Why Latvia? I think that's the question in some minds, which we will answer, and hopefully our sales pitch to you will be very strong. So Latvia actually was one of the first countries globally to pass the startup law, which currently has a very favorable tax regime for its startups. In addition, there are several programs in place, such as Startup Visa program, which is offered to all non-EU startup founders who are willing to come and develop their startup ideas here in Latvia. And of course, the Innovation Voucher program for developing new products or technologies. And actually, following a legislative change in the country's stock option recently, at the beginning of 2021, Latvia is now ranked as the most startup-friendly country in Europe, sharing its top spot with Lithuania and Estonia. That sounds good, right? But maybe too good to be true? Well, we'll sort things out in this following discussion. My name is Artis Ozoliņš. I will be your moderator for the discussion, and let's meet our panel participants in an alphabetical order. First of all, let's meet Alex Pospekhov, an entrepreneur and strategic communication expert, who, by the way, was one of the first to receive a startup visa in 2018, just after the startup law was passed in Latvia. Hello, Alex.
Hello, everyone.
Nice to meet you here today. Next up, it is Egita Aizsilniece-Ibema, head of the Investment and Development Agency's Latvian Office for Innovation and Technology in Brussels. Hello, Egita.
Hello, everybody.
Next up here on the stage, Līva Pērkone, co-founder and CEO at the consulting company Helve, member of the board of the Tech Atelier Foundation and communications lead at Printify. Hello, Līva.
Hey.
Next up, it is Reinis Znotiņš, Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Education and Science of Latvia. Hello, Reinis. And finally, Rolands Bogdanovs, the Acting Director of the freshly established Investment and Tourism Agency of Riga. Hello, Rolands.
Hey, how are you doing?
Excellent. I'm so happy to see so many smiling faces through the screen and not through the screen, so a wonderful combination here with a safe distance. Excellent. We have less than 30 minutes, so that's not a lot, but we're going to go through the questions, and let's start up with a broader view. Of course, a lot has happened and a lot has been achieved since 2017 when the startup law was passed, so news of successful investment rounds and exit deals are no longer so scarce, but where do we stand right now in terms of benefits for building a startup here in Latvia, here in Riga? And right now, I want to give the floor starting from maybe a broader perspective, from a country's perspective, and let's work our way all the way down to the startup and company level. So right now, I would like to give word to Reinis.
So yes, good afternoon, everyone, again, and happy to see you all here. I will tell about the whole context, how we look at the startup community and the business sort of ecosystem from a parliament perspective, and also from Ministry of Education and Science a bit. So first of all, we have done a lot, as moderator already told, to make Latvia basically the best, most startup-friendly country in the region. And we have done it through the legislation, obviously, which is very important. As moderator mentioned, we have introduced a new stock option regulation, which is perhaps the best regulation in the world. So we are very happy about that. But the general perspective from the parliament standpoint is that basically we are a small and open economy And in order to make Latvia economy stand out and be able to compete globally, we have to be the most adaptive, the most fastest to react, the most welcoming for the startups from all around the globe. And that's what we have done. And I believe that with the flexibility that this government and this parliament possess and the will to change and adopt things fast, we can certainly become the most attractive place for startups to land, to create, to build. And the other aspect that I need to mention is certainly also the investment funds that we have allocated from EU finance as well as from some state finance that helps to distribute seed capital and venture capital among the most promising startup companies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Reinis, for that. It was actually a pleasure to hear that you are spearheading this and putting an emphasis on fast reaction and adoption. So that's cool to hear from the government perspective. Let's roll over to Rolands. A Riga perspective, congratulations on the new agency. What's your perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Artis, and thank you, Reinis, as well. You all already elaborated on many of the great things that we have here in the country. So we have good startup law, we have soft landing program, we have startup visa, and we have loads of additional things that makes the environment for startups a great place to be. Not only that, but also if we talk about specifically Riga, we have the largest concentration of students in Latvia. So we have 80% of all students from Latvia concentrated exactly here in Riga. And also the largest concentration of ICT professionals are exactly here in Riga. So notwithstanding is also that it's not only the largest concentration of ICT professionals in Riga, but also in the Baltics. So it kind of puts us on top. And it's no secret that the ICT professionals as such is a scarce resource in the whole world. It's not only about our region, it's much broader. And when it comes to Riga, this year we have moved to sort of a more holistic approach to supporting the startup ecosystem differently as it has been until now. If till now we had multiple grant programs, meaning Takeoff or Atspēriens, Riga Courage Grant, Riga's Drosmes Grants, and Riga Cambridge Venture Camp, with the help of which we have supported more than or approximately 500 startups in the last 10 years. Now we have moved to a more holistic approach, meaning that we will grant funds to the ecosystem as such. The first step was, of course, for the Riga City Council to conclude a memorandum of cooperation between us and multiple parties in the ecosystem. Currently, we have 9 members that have joined the memorandum of cooperation and understanding, but I believe that in the very close future we'll have 11 and then more, because this is an open memorandum. And the idea is that we'll grant funds to the ecosystem itself so that it could allocate the funds to establishment and creation of multiple informative seminars to support international conferences such as this one and Tech Chill and Digital Freedom Festival and so on and so forth. And one new thing that will be supported by the Riga City Council is the creation of a position by the name of relocation consultant, which will help startups from foreign countries to relocate to Riga.
All right, thank you, Rolands. I heard a secret keyword there, which is the human factor, which was mentioned in lectures before through all these things that you mentioned, the students here, the cooperation, and also relocation. So wonderful to see that also the city of Riga is working towards that. Let's move on to Egita with a more European perspective, but still connected to us deeply. Egita, what's your perspective on the current situation and Riga as a hotspot?
Yeah, thank you. Greetings from Europe. But we in LIA, we really are supporting business community with colleagues in Riga and also abroad. And the new office in Brussels has started since April to specifically support Latvian startups in Latvia towards corporations in Brussels, because Brussels offers lots of programs and support mechanisms, initiatives, and platforms for the businesses to move their products in the European value chain. And I think we are developing very well. Just to say some facts, that in just this year, Latvia has issued 21 startup visas for startup ideas and 46 persons. And last year it was 53 innovation ideas who received startup visa and 400 persons. So it's developing very well. And there Brussels could be also interesting factor in choosing Latvia for the persons who are not yet based in Latvia. As, for example, Brussels has an interesting instrument called Startup Accelerator Program, where innovators can apply for the support for their business, even while still managing the paperwork. And of course, at the moment when the grant needs to be accepted, then there is a need for the set business in Latvia, for example. But there are possibilities even before setting up the business, already apply and look for the reach out in Europe. And I'm here for the Latvian businesses to advise, to inform, and to support for partnerships. So I will be very well placed with various country offices in Brussels, so to play this role and to assist.
Thank you, Egita. Let me play a little bit devil's advocate. Let's turn to Līva. So we heard a very sweet story about Riga and Latvia. You represent the community in TechChill, also a part of the startups ecosystem yourself. So how does it look from your perspective? How sweet or how sour is it?
Thank you. It's amazing to be here. First, I want to say I think the first opportunity to be somewhere on location after, I think, 14 months. I think the last time I was in the same building was at TechChill, the very last live event here in the ecosystem. Answering your question, I think the colleagues in this discussion already mentioned all the several really amazing and impactful initiatives done by both the state and especially Riga, which has been very welcomed by the ecosystem. Definitely, we especially have noticed a very big change in how Riga has been very open to the startup ecosystem, and I think that is a very, very welcome change for us to be able to brand ourselves as kind of this heart of the Baltics, because we know that Riga is the biggest city in the Baltics, and that has a lot of potential for us to brand ourselves in a wider regional ecosystem. And to specifically mention maybe one thing that I think has been welcomed the most, it's been the stock option regulation. That I think is the one thing that has first not just given a lot of future potential for us, but it also has proved that when we want to do something, we can actually do that very fast. And that is also, I think, one of the biggest value propositions of Latvia as a whole, that in comparison with maybe other more older countries and bigger countries that move more slowly, we can create change a lot faster when you want to. At the same time, if I had to say one topic that would be on our minds as a startup ecosystem and as a community, that would be the talent. This is one area where we still see a lot that needs to be done, and that is both retaining our brightest minds, retaining our talent here, growing the talent that we already have, and giving them education opportunities, and that is including both starting with students and ending with the management in our scale-ups, and bringing new talent in. And that means changing, which is, we know, a very tricky topic, but that is also a topic on how we can best attract this talent here and keep it here, because that is what our companies need to grow and scale.
Thank you for that. Retaining talent, I noted it down here. And now let's turn to Alex. Alex, what's your perspective as an entrepreneur?
Well, thank you so much for this invitation. It's really great to see how the whole progress worked for the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, when I applied the whole process, the program, startup law, and the ecosystem was a bit different from now. And in the year 2021, you see that Latvia is #1 country for early stages startups and for founders. It's always interesting because people usually don't see opportunities and advantages. So it's always easy to speak about like disadvantages that we have. But for example, you could get startup visa in Latvia in a month, or even a residence permit if you want to bring people to work from your local company from the outside, if you need them also for months. In Germany, it takes, or in Czech Republic, I don't know, like 6 months, 5 months. So it's for startups, it's really impossible to wait for 5-6 months. You will burn out, or your cash gonna over. It's also very great to see that there are really exciting people right now in Latvia who working with legislation, with startup ecosystems, with VC funds, so to bring more in. I know that in terms of money, the Latvian Investment Agency, they have so small budget, and they made so great results that if you compare them with La French Tech, which is a French government body in charge of the innovation, LIA is like 100 or 1,000 times more efficient in terms of spending government money on working with startup ecosystem.
Thank you, Alex. I think with that quote, you have already gotten an invitation to the next Deep Tech Atelier, so congrats on that. But if we look at the whole situation, it sounded very sweet, so that's cool. Latvia is a great place to be, but the one keyword that is very popular in the startup scene is a unicorn. And right now, the only unicorn we have in Latvia is Kristaps Porzingis. So where's our unicorn? Līva, I will turn to you, as you recently retweeted something along the lines that unicorns will not be born just because they're mentioned in the National Development Plan. So where's our unicorn? Why don't we have this one bright and shining thing that we can put on pedestals?
Yeah, I think I should tweet less maybe sometimes. We have heard this chasing unicorns and a lot, I think, especially in the last few months. I've heard it mentioned so much, not just in both in the media, in experts, and in other, in the government papers. And of course, a unicorn will come. I'm going to make my bet it's going to be Printify, but let's see. Maybe my colleagues can make other bets. At the same time, I think a unicorn is a scalable startup. And I think it's important for us not just to get kind of constricted with this, chasing this one unicorn. At the same time, it's not the only thing that we need. We need an ecosystem that is beneficial to so many startups, large and small, and we need all of them here. And if we would maybe talk a bit more with these potential unicorn founders and ask what is it that they need, most likely it will be that they will not ask you for money. They will ask you for many things that actually also other IT companies or other exporting companies, not startups, they have the same needs. They need talent, they need better immigration laws, they need maybe someone in that specific state office to pick up their phone faster, or maybe they need a few things in English. And these are maybe a lot of these small things that could be improved to make the whole ecosystem, and not just for startups, to make it better for the whole economy. So overall, I would suggest to not chase this maybe one unicorn that much, but rather focus on building an ecosystem for for not just for, first of all, for a lot of startups and scale-ups to grow, but also for the other IT and exporting companies that are such a huge and big part of our economy, and that will make it better for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Alex, I will turn to you. Līva mentioned a few things. Now, imagine you are the first CEO of Latvia's first unicorn startup, and we turn to you with this question. Mr. Alex, what was missing for you, or what is missing right now for other unicorns to be? What would you emphasize from what Līva said?
The only thing that needs right now in the ecosystem, in my opinion, is bringing more and more European and not European VC funds in, because it's the only question, you know, to raise the amount of the investment, to raise opportunities for startups. For example, in Croatian IT ecosystem, they have one unicorn, but the whole system just not developed. On the other side, there is Romania with, I think, one unicorn, but the whole ecosystem turned around like simple software outsourcing development. In my opinion, you must bring more VC funds to Latvia and say, hey, we have very good progress. We have deep tech. We have another company. So it's also, in my opinion, Latvia must have real focus about the sector that we're going to work in, because everyone knows that Lithuania is fintech country, and it's simply, to be honest, not quite useful to move forward with the new fintech startups. But I think you have in Latvia have lots of cool deep tech startups, deep tech companies. I'm just not even speaking about the startups. And it's better to focus on one sector, because otherwise you will have lots of small companies that are trying to do everything. But as far as you know, as we're at a startup conference, when you try to do everything, nothing happens.
Mm-hmm. And you actually, I don't know if you're reading my notes here, you actually touched the next question. And yeah, of course, Lithuania, some would say they're raising their fintech flag right now. Estonia maybe ran it more as an e-government with all of their options. So I turn to Egita. Alex mentioned all of the funds. How do you promote Latvia in the European scale, and how do you get these funds, more funds in the future to Latvia? What is our flag? What should be our brand? Is it deep tech?
It's indeed, I think the answer is in big part in deep tech and the cooperation with Latvian science institutions, because many of them are the best in the region, with very good commercialization projects, with very useful research results, also very good results in European projects as well. But then the next part is for the businesses to take those science results on board and commercialize them. And also, for example, there's a parallel, of course, discussions about the space industry. Great results from Latvia, actually. It's amazing. Our Baltic other partners are quite jealous at Latvian achievements. And for Latvian ecosystem of startups, it's just a question of finding those opportunities and using opportunities, and also using the European scope. And there again, LatTech office that I'm working in could be of help to get the best partnerships and to be ahead of the others in European value chains.
Mm-hmm. Reinis, I didn't see your grimace once I raised the deep tech flag here, so maybe you could comment from a country's perspective. How do you see this? What is our big advantage that we can sell to other startups and funds?
Yes, I would be more closer to what Līva previously mentioned. I believe that creating the ecosystem, the whole thing, is the most important part of this, and that includes several things. Some of them were already mentioned, but I'll mention one more, which is currently a big focus of mine and big focus of the Parliament. And that is, if you are a startup founder, you obviously need talent. You need ECT professionals. And that's something that Latvia is currently heavily investing in. is to increasing digital knowledge of people in Latvia, increasing high-level skills of digital knowledge. So like you might say, it's like it's like deep tech abilities, where you can not only use technology, but you can also create technology, and that's something that startups really need. So regulation, we have the best stock option regulation in the world. Then startup law, it's basically tax cuts that we provide through startup law for high added value workers and employees. And so the third one is the talent. You need talent. When I was at Techstars back in the day and selecting startups for the Techstars programs in the United States, what we were looking for is mostly talent in the team. So talent was always came first. Only after that came idea, etc., the market size, etc. So finding the right talent and being able to recruit the right talent is what Latvia needs to develop in order to be even more interesting for the startups to grow here and to come to Latvia to create companies.
Mm-hmm. Rolands, I turn to you. I might throw you in the deep water with this next question, but Līva mentioned some of those little things that need to be worked on, like the practical things. How Riga, as a city, aims to help with these practical things to eliminate all of the obstacles? Do you have some vision for this, how Riga can truly become a place without obstacles for new startups?
Thank you, Artis. That's a perfect question. It's actually what I wanted to talk about as well. And to add to Alex's point about budget, also Riga's budget isn't humongous. I mean, if you compare it to Paris's innovation budget, it's as big as Riga's entire budget. So that's just to put things into perspective. But despite that, we are the ones that are, on a daily basis, we're talking with the ecosystem representatives, we're talking to startups, we're talking to incubators and accelerators, and we're trying to identify what are the problem situations, where are you stuck with in terms of procedures with city council, with state institutions. So one thing that we have definitely identified and have been working for quite some time now is especially which will work in favor of smart city innovators and startups in that ecosystem, the ones that need to test their solutions within the urban environment just to verify them and validate them. It's smart city sandboxes. So we have identified 3 locations in city, which is DEF or DEFresh area, which has historically been very strong in tech engineering and tech creation, and now is also very strong in software. We have identified Torņakalns and Ķīpsala, which are both a part of a knowledge mile, where a lot of competencies are concentrated. There is two of the largest universities, and actually 5 universities within that knowledge mile, meaning Riga Technical University and Latvian University. So we're aiming to push for these smart city sandboxes to be open in a near time. And the idea is that for these startups or for any large foreign or local company, it will be much more time efficient, much more cost efficient to test and validate their solutions within the urban environment. If, let's say now it took 6 months and rushing from one person to another person, from one institution to another institution, we're willing to decrease these steps to the lowest number possible. And we're willing to pay for all of the services that city has to provide from our budget as well.
All right, we've got a little bit more than 2 minutes here on the clock, so this is a startup event, so let's do something interesting. Let's have ourselves a quick pitch demonstration, and there are going to be 2 questions. For Alex and Līva, from you I want to hear one thing that, if fixed, would increase Riga as a hotspot, one thing to fix, because the people are here who can do that. On the other side, Reinis, Rolands, and Egita, you pitch us one thing that is already here that can truly benefit a startup, all the startup enthusiasts watching. All right? 2 sides, 2 questions. I'm going to start with Līva, as she's an expert in the startup ecosystem. Līva, 30 seconds, go.
If I would have to pick one thing, it would be a hard choice between immigration policies to bring in better talent and country branding, which has been a hot topic for a while now, and including maybe Riga branding, because we can be really amazing. It really doesn't help if no one knows about it. So focusing on also telling this to the outside world should be a very big priority, both for the state and both for, I think, Riga is a great hotspot that has a lot of potential to give.
Thank you, Līva. Alex, 30 seconds, go.
In my opinion, of course, is country and city branding, because Latvia is so beautiful and everything. You know, people really want to live here. And second thing is working more with investors, something like investors visa, like it's in France, in Switzerland, is really sometimes very helpful. I think that's it.
Thank you. Egita, your next 30 seconds, go.
Yeah, if I need to say, to pick one service of Līva. Līva has lots of good services, very useful services for the business community. But one I would pick is innovation vouchers that could be interesting and very useful for the businesses to cover the costs of R&D with Latvian science institutions. So they are popular, and please use them more. It's innovation vouchers.
Thank you, Egita. Rolands, 30 seconds, go.
Yeah, I'll talk about this in a slightly different perspective. So you mentioned that the fact that we have no unicorn, and I think that it actually works in our favor. It's like a sort of a quiet competition amongst startups. So they're slowly being pushed informally to become the first unicorn. So I encourage this competition, and I hope that we'll find our unicorn as soon as possible. And we will be here to help them in any way, shape, or form possible.
All right, and Reinis, the whole Latvia is in your hands. Pick one thing, 30 seconds, go.
Well, one thing that is not mentioned yet is Latvia as a test bed for new inventions. So it's much easier in Latvia to test your solution for railways than it is to test it with the British Railways or Deutsche Bahn, right? So test it in Latvia. Grow it here, and then sell it freely without any taxes to rest of the Europe and rest of the world.
Excellent. Thank you. You are truly worthy of being on this stage. Let's have a loud round of applause. First of all, Alex Pospekhov, Egita Aizsilniece-Ibema, Līva Pērkone, Reinis Znotiņš, and Rolands Bogdanovs. Thank you, everybody, for this wonderful discussion. Thank you for joining us here at Deep Tech Atelier.